The world of gaming is vast and immersive, a universe born from decades of technological evolution and cultural fascination. From the earliest arcades of the 1970s, where pixels flickered on monochrome screens, to the sprawling multiplayer online worlds of today, gaming has become more than entertainment. It is a global phenomenon. Developers have pushed the boundaries of hardware and software, creating increasingly complex experiences that demand skill, focus, and time. For players, these games offer more than fun. They are spaces of achievement, social connection, and personal identity. Yet, with every advancement and every new release comes the shadow of obsession, the unseen pressures that can transform passion into peril. In countries like South Korea, China, and Russia, where competitive gaming grew into a high-stakes profession, the culture of marathon sessions, tournaments, and online fame has often carried hidden risks. Behind the glow of every monitor is a human being navigating not only digital challenges, but also the limitations of their own body. Long before tragedies occurred, the gaming community was aware of the physical toll of prolonged play. Deep vein thrombosis, sleep deprivation, malnutrition, and the strain of sustained concentration. But as games became more engaging, offering endless worlds to explore or rankings to climb, players often ignored these warning signs. Families watched with concern as loved ones spent hours, sometimes days, in front of screens, unaware that excitement and immersion could mask dangerous exhaustion. The tension between human endurance and digital demand is at the heart of these stories. It is within this context that tragedy struck. Gamers, who had devoted themselves entirely to their craft, sometimes succumbed to the physical consequences of marathon play. Reports from news outlets and medical examinations paint a harrowing picture: a young man, immersed in a game for hours on end, refuses to rest, drink, or eat. Friends and onlookers notice a sudden pallor, a slump in posture, but the excitement of virtual conquest keeps them seated. Then, as exhaustion overwhelms the body, a fatal event occurs. Cardiac arrest, a blood clot, or another preventable medical catastrophe. The shock reverberates through the community, a stark reminder that even the most engrossing digital experience cannot suspend the laws of the human body. In the aftermath, these deaths left ripples of grief and reflection across families, gaming communities, and even national governments. News reports sparked debates about the culture of competitive gaming and the responsibilities of developers, tournament organizers, and parents. Some nations introduced curfews for minors or education campaigns, warning about gaming addiction, while online platforms began to emphasize healthy play habits. Memorials and tributes appeared in forums, streams, and gaming conventions, honoring those lost while reminding survivors of the fragility of life. Each tragedy, while deeply personal, also served as a catalyst for change, prompting a reevaluation of safety, balance, and the human cost behind the allure of the digital world. The rise of competitive gaming in the early 2000s transformed what was once a casual hobby into a professional and highly demanding pursuit. In South Korea, internet cafes, known as PC bangs, became cultural hubs where young people gathered to play for hours on end, often competing in online tournaments with high stakes, both socially and financially. The nation's embrace of esports was fueled by technological infrastructure, including high-speed internet and powerful gaming rigs, which allowed for uninterrupted play and real-time competition. At the same time, the societal pressures to excel, combined with the intoxicating lure of digital achievement, created an environment where pushing one's limits was not only celebrated but expected. It was in this context that tragic incidents began to emerge, revealing the hidden cost of relentless gaming. In 2005, Jeong Min-Ho, a 26-year-old avid gamer, entered what was supposed to be an intense but routine marathon session. The gaming environment itself, dimly lit rooms, the constant glow of monitors, the hum of computers, and the persistent aroma of snacks and energy drinks, encouraged extended play. Hours turned into days as Jeong immersed himself in his virtual world, focused entirely on his game. Friends and fellow players recall his energy slowly waning over time, his posture becoming stiff, yet the intensity of the competition kept him anchored to his seat. Unbeknownst to him, prolonged immobility was silently wreaking havoc on his body. Deep vein thrombosis, a condition where blood clots form in the deep veins of the leg, began to develop, an almost invisible threat that would soon prove fatal. The moment of tragedy struck suddenly. After roughly 50 hours of continuous gaming, Jeong collapsed. The clot that had formed in his leg traveled to his lungs, causing a pulmonary embolism, an acute and often fatal blockage of blood flow. Those nearby described scenes of panic and disbelief as they tried to revive him, calling emergency services and attempting first aid. Medical personnel arrived to find a body that had been pushed beyond natural limits, a life extinguished not by violence or accident, but by the very act of devotion to a digital pursuit. The room, once filled with excitement and focus, became a scene of shock, grief, and haunting silence. The incident sent ripples through South Korea and the wider gaming community, forcing society to confront the dangers of marathon gaming sessions. Subsequent studies, including those published in the Korean Journal of Sports Medicine, emphasized the combination of sedentary behavior, dehydration, and extended screen time as a serious health risk. Jeong's death prompted both public discourse and policy interventions. Campaigns were launched to educate players about the importance of regular breaks, proper hydration, and balanced nutrition. Some internet cafes began enforcing time limits, and parents were urged to monitor the gaming habits of their children more closely. Jeong Min-Ho's story became a cautionary tale, symbolizing both the intense dedication of gamers and the human vulnerabilities that can be overlooked in the pursuit of digital achievement. Memorials and tributes appeared online and within the gaming community, honoring his passion while highlighting the critical need for awareness and moderation. In many ways, his tragic death catalyzed a broader conversation about health, safety, and responsibility in esports, leaving a lasting legacy that reshaped gaming culture in South Korea and beyond. The early 2010s marked a turning point in the world of gaming, with the rise of online, multiplayer games such as World of Warcraft, League of Legends, and other massive online worlds. Players could immerse themselves in expansive digital universes without ever leaving their homes. These games were not merely entertainment, they were social arenas, competitive stages, and sources of identity. Technological advancements, including high-speed internet and ever more powerful personal computers, made it possible for gamers to remain online for extended periods, seamlessly interacting with millions of other players worldwide. At the same time, the games themselves were deliberately designed to encourage prolonged engagement, offering rewards, rankings, and social validation that blurred the lines between accomplishment in the virtual world and personal fulfillment in reality. In countries like China, where educational pressures and limited leisure opportunities created intense social stress, online gaming became a sanctuary, a place to escape, excel, and connect, but also a trap for obsession. In 2010, Yang Yongxin, a 28-year-old avid gamer in China, became one of the most tragic examples of this phenomenon. Yang reportedly spent over 40 consecutive hours immersed in World of Warcraft, refusing food, water, and rest. In small, dimly lit rooms cluttered with energy drinks, instant noodles, and empty snack wrappers, the physical and mental toll of such marathon play began to manifest. Friends and family noticed his fatigue, pale skin, and unsteady movements, but the intensity of the game seemed to hold him in its grip. As the hours passed, Yang's body began to shut down under the combined strain of sleep deprivation, dehydration, and extended stress on the cardiovascular system. His heart, weakened by exhaustion and the lack of essential nutrients, eventually gave out, leading to sudden cardiac arrest. The scene, when discovered, was one of disbelief and sorrow, a stark illustration of the lethal potential of unmonitored gaming addiction. The tragedy shocked not only Yang's family, but also the wider public. News outlets in China reported on the incident extensively, highlighting both the personal loss and the broader societal implications. Interviews with family members revealed the profound grief and confusion of loved ones who struggled to understand how a pastime meant for enjoyment had become a fatal obsession. Experts in psychology and medicine weighed in, linking prolonged gaming to both physical and mental health consequences, including cardiovascular strain, extreme fatigue, and the emergence of addictive behaviors that can mimic substance dependency. Yang's death became a symbol of the darker side of digital entertainment, where the boundary between passion and compulsion can vanish, sometimes with irreversible consequences. The aftermath of Yang Yongxin's death spurred nationwide reflection and prompted early policy discussions on regulating gaming habits, especially among young adults. Educational campaigns encouraged moderation, emphasizing the importance of breaks, hydration, nutrition, and sleep. Online platforms and internet cafes began experimenting with limits on consecutive play hours, while schools and parents were urged to monitor the gaming behaviors of students more carefully. On a broader scale, the incident contributed to the growing recognition of gaming addiction as a legitimate mental health concern. In 2018, the World Health Organization formally classified gaming disorder as a mental health condition, a milestone that underscored the severity and legitimacy of such risks. Yang Yongxin's story resonates not only as a cautionary tale, but as a call for balance, awareness, and compassion within the gaming community. It illustrates the fine line between dedication and obsession, and the very real dangers of ignoring the body's limits in pursuit of virtual achievement. Memorials, online tributes, and discussions in gaming forums ensured that his legacy endured, serving as both a warning and a reminder. Even the most immersive worlds cannot replace the fragile realities of the human body and mind. The rapid rise of esports in the 2010s transformed gaming into a global phenomenon, turning casual players into professional athletes and online competitions into international spectacles. Countries like Russia, South Korea, and China became hubs for competitive gaming, with tournaments broadcast to millions and prize pools reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars. This era of esports was marked not only by technological innovation, high-performance PCs, ultra-fast internet, and sophisticated streaming platforms, but also by immense pressure on players. Competitive gamers were expected to maintain peak focus for hours on end, often practicing up to 12 or 16 hours a day to stay ahead in rankings and secure sponsorships. The allure of fame, money, and recognition created an environment in which the physical and mental limits of players were constantly tested. In 2018, this high-stakes environment contributed to a tragic incident in Russia. Sergey Romanov, a 33-year-old esports enthusiast and semi-professional gamer, participated in a 24-hour online Counter-Strike global offensive tournament. Sergey's room was filled with the low hum of his PC, the glowing monitors reflecting intense concentration on his face, and the clutter of energy drinks and snacks that had replaced proper meals. As the hours passed, his body began to exhibit signs of extreme fatigue, slouched posture, heavy eyelids, and slowed reflexes, but the competition demanded relentless focus. Around the 20th hour of gameplay, Sergey experienced severe chest pain and shortness of breath, yet he continued to play, determined not to lose his streak. By the 24th hour, he collapsed. Attempts by fellow players to assist him were frantic but ultimately futile. Emergency services were called, but by the time paramedics arrived, Sergey had suffered cardiac arrest, the culmination of prolonged stress, sleep deprivation, and physical strain. Witnesses described the scene as surreal and devastating. The excitement and camaraderie that had fueled the tournament moments before turned to shock and grief. Friends recounted a mixture of disbelief, sorrow, and helplessness, emotions intensified by the virtual reality of the competition that had masked the danger until it was too late. Analysts and medical experts later explained how extended gaming sessions, combined with poor posture, dehydration, and high-stress competition, can drastically increase the risk of heart failure, particularly in adults with pre-existing vulnerabilities. Sergey's death was not simply an accident. It was the tragic intersection of passion, dedication, and the human body's finite limits. The incident prompted national and international conversations about player welfare in esports. Gaming organizations and tournament organizers began to implement stricter safety protocols, including mandatory breaks, on-site medical staff, and limits on continuous play during competitions. Health experts emphasized the importance of hydration, nutrition, and regular movement even for professional gamers, while the wider community debated the cultural pressures that incentivize extreme gaming. Sergey Romanov's story became a somber example within esports circles, illustrating the need for balance and the human costs behind competitive success. In the aftermath, memorials and online tributes highlighted not only his dedication to gaming, but also the broader risks facing players in the high-pressure esports environment. His death served as both a warning and a catalyst for change, pushing organizers and communities to recognize that digital glory must never come at the expense of life itself. The tragedy left a lasting mark on esports culture, reminding the world that behind every digital victory is a human being, with all the vulnerabilities and limits that entails. By 2019, gaming had evolved from a niche hobby into a global cultural phenomenon. South Korea, often regarded as the epicenter of esports, had developed one of the most technologically advanced gaming infrastructures in the world. High-speed internet, PC bangs accessible around the clock, and a highly competitive gaming culture created an environment in which players of all ages could devote immense time and energy to virtual competition. Yet this rapid expansion brought with it hidden dangers. The culture of endurance and achievement often blurred the line between healthy engagement and risky obsession, especially for younger gamers still developing physically and mentally. In this context, the tragic story of Lee Seung-bok, a 16-year-old from South Korea, shocked the nation and reverberated across the international gaming community. Lee had reportedly been playing continuously for over 20 hours during an overnight session. The room, dimly lit and scattered with energy drinks and snack wrappers, became a silent battlefield where exhaustion slowly overtook his body. Family members who monitored him remotely noticed subtle signs of distress, slouched posture, shallow breathing, and unresponsiveness to calls. Despite these warning signals, Lee continued to play, driven by a combination of intense focus, peer pressure, and the immersive pull of the game itself. Experts later explained that prolonged gaming can place extraordinary stress on the cardiovascular system, particularly when combined with dehydration, irregular eating, and lack of sleep. In Lee's case, acute cardiac arrest struck suddenly, leaving no time for intervention as the body succumbed to the physiological strain of relentless activity. The discovery of Lee's condition sent shockwaves through his household and the broader community. Emergency responders arrived to find family members in shock, grappling with disbelief and sorrow. Interviews with friends and classmates revealed a mixture of grief and guilt as they struggled to comprehend how a pastime that brought joy and camaraderie could result in such a devastating loss. Online forums and social media quickly filled with tributes, condolences, and urgent debates about the safety of prolonged gaming sessions for minors. International news outlets highlighted the incident, framing it as a cautionary tale about the intersection of technology, youth culture, and human vulnerability. Lee's death sparked immediate reflection among policymakers, educators, and parents. South Korea, already familiar with the risks of gaming-related health issues, intensified efforts to regulate gaming time for minors, introducing stricter curfews and educational programs to encourage healthy habits. Awareness campaigns emphasized the importance of regular breaks, hydration, nutrition, and moderation, aiming to prevent similar tragedies from occurring. Health experts advocated for broader recognition of gaming addiction and its potential physiological consequences, underscoring the need for intervention and monitoring at both family and community levels. The emotional impact of Lee Seung-bok's death extended far beyond policy changes. Candlelight vigils were held in his memory, with friends, family, and members of the gaming community honoring his life and raising awareness about the risks of extreme gaming. His story became a symbol of the delicate balance between passion and well-being, a reminder that even in a digital age, the human body and mind have limits that must be respected. In forums and educational programs, his legacy persists as a powerful warning. The thrill of gaming should never come at the expense of life itself, and awareness, self-care, and moderation are not optional. They are essential. The stories of gamers like Jeong Min-Ho, Yang Yongxin, Sergey Romanov, and Lee Seung-bok reveal a sobering reality. The digital worlds that captivate and connect millions are not without risk. Over decades, as gaming evolved from arcades and early consoles to sprawling online multiplayer universes and professional esports leagues, technology and culture created both opportunity and danger. The same infrastructure that allows seamless play across continents, high-speed internet, powerful hardware, and immersive game design also facilitates extended sessions that can push the human body beyond its limits. Societal pressures to succeed, gain recognition, or escape stress magnify these risks, particularly in countries where competitive gaming is deeply ingrained in youth culture. The combination of physical immobility, irregular nutrition, dehydration, and mental exhaustion sets the stage for catastrophic outcomes, a truth that these tragedies laid bare. Each fatal incident followed a pattern of slow, almost imperceptible decline. In these marathon sessions, players would initially show signs of fatigue, slumped posture, slower reflexes, and irritability. Hours would turn into days as their focus remained locked on the game, ignoring the body's basic needs. Circulatory systems weakened from prolonged immobility, the heart strained under sustained stress, and the mind became trapped in a feedback loop of achievement and reward. Friends and onlookers often noticed subtle warning signs, yet the intensity of the game and the isolation of long sessions masked the danger. In the moments of collapse, family members, friends, and teammates confronted a terrifying reality: the exhilaration of gaming could not override biological limits. The panic, grief, and helplessness felt by those present are as much a part of the tragedy as the deaths themselves. These incidents prompted a national and global conversation about health, addiction, and the responsibilities of both players and the gaming industry. Medical professionals highlighted the specific physiological risks: deep vein thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, heart failure, stroke, and severe sleep deprivation. Psychologists emphasized that gaming addiction, now recognized by the World Health Organization, is a serious mental health condition that can spiral into life-threatening behaviors. Governments, particularly in East Asia, introduced curfews for minors, public awareness campaigns, and educational programs targeting families, schools, and gaming communities. Internet cafes and esports organizers began implementing mandatory breaks, hydration reminders, and medical monitoring, aiming to prevent repetition of these tragedies. The emotional and cultural impact of these deaths is profound. Tributes, candlelight vigils, and online memorials transformed personal loss into collective reflection, emphasizing that behind every screen is a human life. Families, communities, and gamers themselves became more vigilant, advocating for moderation and self-care. Lessons learned from these tragedies extend beyond the gaming community, serving as reminders of the human cost of obsession in any immersive pursuit. They underscore the necessity of balancing physical well-being, mental health, and social support must coexist with passion and ambition. Ultimately, these stories are not only about loss, but about resilience, awareness, and reform. They remind us that the thrill of competition and the allure of virtual worlds are inseparable from our responsibility to safeguard life and health. Gaming, like all human endeavors, carries potential for both joy and danger. By learning from these tragedies, embracing moderation, and fostering supportive communities, we honor those lost and ensure that the digital landscapes we inhabit remain spaces of growth, connection, and vitality, not sites of preventable sorrow. The world of gaming is one of unparalleled creativity and connection, a realm where individuals can explore infinite possibilities, collaborate with friends across the globe, and achieve feats that defy the limits of the physical world. From the earliest arcades to sprawling online multiplayer universes, gaming has evolved alongside technological advancements, cultural shifts, and social networks that enable players to engage with one another at any hour of the day. Yet, as these digital landscapes became more immersive, the boundaries between enthusiasm, dedication, and dangerous obsession grew increasingly blurred. For countless players, the thrill of competition, the pursuit of achievement, or the simple joy of connection can become all-consuming, masking the warning signs of physical and mental strain until it is too late. The stories shared in this documentary illuminate the human cost behind hours spent in front of a screen, revealing the fragility that lies beneath even the most passionate pursuits. Marathon gaming sessions, gaming addiction, and high-stakes online competitions are more than abstract risks. They are deeply human stories of ambition, endurance, and, tragically, loss. Each fatal incident described, from Jeong Min-Ho in South Korea to Yang Yongxin in China, Sergey Romanov in Russia, and Lee Seung-bok, follows a pattern of gradual decline. Hours of uninterrupted focus, insufficient sleep, poor nutrition, and dehydration culminated in medical emergencies that friends and family often could not anticipate. The moments of crisis, sudden collapse, frantic attempts at revival, and the ultimate helplessness experienced by those present are stark reminders that behind every avatar, every leaderboard, and every virtual achievement is a living, vulnerable human being. The fear, grief, and shock felt by families, friends, and gaming communities in these moments are inseparable from the narrative, underscoring that loss in gaming is both personal and communal. The aftermath of these tragedies has reshaped the way we understand and approach gaming. Policymakers in several countries introduced curfews for minors, educational campaigns about safe gaming practices, and regulations for esports tournaments to ensure breaks, hydration, and medical supervision. Health organizations and psychologists began emphasizing the recognition and treatment of gaming addiction, acknowledging its status as a legitimate mental health concern. Gaming communities themselves, online forums, streaming platforms, and social networks adopted new norms promoting self-care, moderation, and peer support. Candlelight vigils, online memorials, and tributes to those lost transformed grief into advocacy, ensuring that each story carries lessons for future players. Ultimately, gaming is a celebration of human imagination and connection, but it carries inherent responsibilities. Players, families, developers, and organizers share the duty to recognize limits, to balance passion with self-care, and to intervene when obsession threatens life or health. Remembering those we have lost is not only an act of mourning, but an act of commitment to play responsibly, to respect our bodies and minds, and to foster communities that value well-being as much as achievement. Life behind the screen is finite, and each story reminds us that vigilance, awareness, and care are as critical to gaming as strategy, skill, and dedication. As the final images fade, gamers stretching, hydrating, taking mindful pauses, we are left with a quiet yet profound truth: gaming can inspire, challenge, and connect us, but it must never come at the cost of life itself. In honoring those lost to gaming-related deaths, we honor our shared humanity, embracing balance, responsibility, and the enduring reminder that behind every screen is a heartbeat that must be cherished.